Welcome to 3 ways to control inventory and warehousing to optimize your retail operations. So, we're going to be talking about how to work out the opportunity cost of stock, rationalizing your SKUs for maximum profit, how to determine the number of SKUs retailers should stock. We'll also have ample time for a Q&A at the end of the session, but I really encourage everyone to ask questions as we go along. If a question comes up, I will ask it James from James and James as we go through, but I will also come back to questions at the end, so please do use the question box. And we will start off with some introductions. So, a little bit about me quickly. My name's Bronya and I work at Brightpearl. I've been here for 3 years now. So I look after our marketing department in terms of content, PR and events. And I'm joined today by James Strachan and Michael from James and James. I'll let them say hi.
Hello there.
Hello.
And just quickly to run through a little bit about Brightpearl. There's a few people on the call that don't know much about us, so I will do a quick overview. So Brightpearl started out when Chris Tanner, our founder, started a skateboard company, which was actually called Lush Longboards. He grew that company to be the third largest longboard company globally. So while running Lush, Chris became increasingly frustrated with the complexity of running his multi-channel business on a global scale. And he began looking for software that could help, but he quickly realized that existing options were either too expensive or limited in what they could actually do for him. In 2006, Chris actually started developing Brightpearl. And as he was developing it, he realized that it would be really useful for other retailers. So we actually launched in the summer of 2007 with our first customer, which was very successful. And today we actually now have over 1,300 customers. And a nice little stat for you, by the end of this year, we will have processed over 12 million orders through Brightpearl. So we've definitely grown since 2007. And then, so here on the next slide, this is kind of an overview of the Brightpearl solution. It looks a bit like a donut, so that's what we refer to it as. So it gives you an idea of the software platforms that we integrate with, but that orange section in the center is Brightpearl's sort of core features. And what you can see down on logistics is James and James. So we've been partnered with James and James for some time now. We share a lot of the same customers. And without further ado, I will let Michael and James introduce themselves and tell you a bit more about James and James.
Hello there, I'm Michael Gandy. I'm the marketing manager at James and James. And before you all start groaning, I'm not going to be doing much of the talking. It will actually be our founder, James Strachan. So I'll pass you over to him.
Thanks, Mike. So my name is James Strachan. I'm one of the Jameses of James and James. I started the company with another guy called James Hyde in 2010. To set the scene a little bit, you've heard what Brightpearl do. Our side of things is based in the real world, so we're a warehouse first and foremost. In fact, there's 3 warehouses around the world now, and we provide a software system which allows clients to use our warehouses remotely to ship their stock. So we're a 3PL or an outsourced fulfiller, and at the moment we have somewhere around 150 different clients shipping a multitude of different types of products from our warehouses to their customers. As Grania said, we've been working together with Brightpearl for quite a while because customers that want to use online systems, that want to optimize and automate their businesses tend to look for these types of technologies. And our approach to fulfillment is very similar to Chris and Andrew's approach to what's kind of an ERP in Brightpearl, which is we're looking for something which is cloud-based, which is real-time, which makes things easy and draws all the information together in one place. So there's a fairly natural fit between the two businesses. We do have a number of key customers in common, and our integrations between our systems are ever increasing. So we're pulling orders in from Brightpearl, which holds them all in a nice way from the various different channels and marketplaces in which they're placed. And then we report back to Brightpearl with the status of those orders in our warehouse, and also pushing information about stock receipts and things like that. So that's how the two bits come together. And I'm hopeful that I can clarify a few things about stock from the warehouse point of view that might eliminate the conversation on SKUs. Back to you, Brian.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So we get to work with a lot of retailers at Brightpearl, and one of the questions we come across frequently is how should retailers determine the number of SKUs they should stock? I'm hoping, James, you can shed some light there.
So it's a big question, and it doesn't have a single answer. So if anyone was tuning in to find that one key number, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. But there are some ways of looking at it. So as you see on the slide, you can put companies on a spectrum of how many SKUs they have. You've got these big premium brands who tell you what to buy, and they only offer one thing. Coca-Cola made its name selling one drink. It now has 5. The number of orders has increased dramatically in that time. Whereas at the other end of the spectrum, you've got these large companies who are trying to be a one-stop shop and everything store, and what they're providing you is choice, not opinion. Now, it is worth working out which end of the spectrum you lie on, because it can inform the decision about how much you try and push clients to buy particular SKUs and how much you sit back and try and be comprehensive in the selection you offer. There is a cost of being at that top end of the spectrum. In managing the SKUs, the information, the orders, and the complexity inherent in these large SKU companies, but also there's a cost in very real terms, because you have to buy the items, one of each at least, and hold them for a period of time until they sell, and that brings with itself some challenges.
Cool. And why do you think it is that retailers choose to stock a large number of SKUs?
We see this with type of companies that we deal with, which are anywhere from bedroom sellers right through to multinational corporations. There is this sense that if you want to expand your business, an easy way to do it is to add a SKU, because someone will buy it. And yes, that's true, I guess, in that I can go onto eBay today and I can sell one of anything very easily with very little effort. But the challenge, and I think in some way the marker of a strong business, the ones we see performing well, are those who have an opinion, who actually offer something interesting to the market. So if you're going to be selling, I don't know, shoes, why not sell a very specific type of shoe? Why not be the best climbing shoe seller in the world? Why not choose the brands that you want to promote? In that way, you're reducing the complexity of your business while actually increasing the value of it to the market, because you're able to offer information rather than just sit back and take your choice from an extensive selection. But opinions vary.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you think it's always important to have a large amount of products in stock?
No, in fact, it's important as a business not to have anything more in stock than you absolutely require. And we'll get to some of the reasons for that further on. But essentially, stock costs money. It's one of the largest portions of a company's asset base if they're doing buying and selling. And so having a lot of capital tied up in stock is difficult. It represents a great opportunity cost. There are better things that you could do with that, or indeed it presents a great risk, because if you don't move the stock through the system, you're not making profit. You're just sitting on a lump of illiquid cash.
Okay. And can you tell us a bit more about how you work out the opportunity cost of stock?
Oh, thanks. So on the screen is a little thought exercise where if you're considering investing in stock, how might you do it? So this is from the point of view of a company that actually doesn't have cash in hand. We'll do the reverse in a bit. But if I wanted to go to the bank at the moment and take out a loan, I want to take out £10,000. I want to plough it into expanding my range. So I want to take a whole new set of, I don't know, cosmetics and add them onto my website. If I want to buy £10,000 worth of stock, it will cost me some cost of capital per year. That's the interest on the loan that the bank would offer you, essentially. Which means that by the end of the year, I'll have had to not only sell the 10,000 worth of stock that I would have tried to sell anyway, but I also have to service the cost of the capital, which could be 10% on that, which means I need an additional £1,000 off the back of that transaction. And critically, if we skip a slide forward, I think you can see the compressive effect of this, because an additional £1,000 has to come out of profit, not just revenue. So just because you are selling more does not necessarily mean that you're covering the cost of making those sales. And at normal businesses' profitability, that net profit might represent anywhere between 4,000 and 10,000 more turnover for retailers. So it's important to consider that just having the capital around to bring in more stock, to service more SKUs, to put more things on your website, actually requires quite a large uptick in the amount of turnover. Now, the opportunity cost is the nicer side of that. So instead of cost of capital, you say, well, I have £10,000 burning a hole in my pocket. I might want to invest it in stock. Then the question is, what stock gives you the best return? Most companies will know the things that sell very well and the things that don't sell so well. And sometimes the best approach is to invest more heavily rather than trying to expand into complementary goods or extend the range. So that money could be spent on marketing, and that is something you have to compare. What would £10,000 of marketing look like in the context of turnover or profitability for the business, as opposed to £10,000 worth of stock? And generally, it's hard to be specific on this, but generally, investing in things that are known to be good sellers is a strong way of growing a company.
Yeah, I guess it's quite hard to actually find a balance. How do you rationalise the SKUs that you have for maximum profit?
You have to consider the business you're in. So I said something about shoes earlier on. There are some businesses where, by necessity, you need to hold a reasonable amount of SKUs. So things like clothing, apparel, shoes particularly. There's no way you can go in and say this is a shoe that everyone wants to buy, because people have an opinion on the color they want. There's different styles for men and women, and of course there's a whole range of different sizes, not to mention the seasonality. So very quickly, I want to sell one type of shoe turns into I want to sell 100 types of shoes just to start. How to rationalize that? But it's one, a lot of examples in the market of people overcoming successfully. If I want to be the shoe emporium, if I want to be the everything shop for shoes, I'm going to be holding literally millions of different specific SKUs, each one of which I'd have to have stock of, and each one of which I have to manage and reorder and list, take pictures of, all the rest of the things you have to do when running a business. If you wanted to narrow down that challenge somewhat, then specialize. There are lots of niches. There are people who are very successfully selling ballet shoes, and that's all they sell, and they're all pink. And they have a few different sizes of ballet shoes, but they are the best ones. They're made from a special factory in France somewhere, and it's wonderful. And they can propose value to the market and guide consumers into what to buy, which is beneficial to consumers, one hopes, but it's also beneficial to the company as a platform for growth, because having a very highly concentrated number of SKUs against a large and growing number of orders is a good situation to be in.
And where should retailers look to determine how many SKUs they should hold?
When you say where should they look, as in for reference examples?
Yeah, so I guess what are they looking at in terms of actually determining what SKUs they should hold? So how do they get that information that tells them that they should hold this SKU or that SKU?
So it's worth looking at the detail, what the data tells you in terms of the stock that you're holding. So if we're talking about, I have a set of SKUs and I want to know which ones to concentrate on, which is a common activity for companies, or at least should be a common activity for companies, then you get into this idea of long tail, where everyone knows at one end of their rate of sale, they've got the things that are always going out of stock because people keep buying them. At the other end of the tail, you've got the large number, maybe the 80% of products that actually don't make such a high contribution. Right down at the end, you've got the things that you bought a year ago and they've still got most of them left. And they're the ones where it can be, they can weigh down a company, because you still have to manage it, you still have to pay for the space that it takes to store it. If they have lifespan on them, then you have an even greater challenge, because if they're going to go out of date at a certain point, you have to promote and sell them. and that can distract you from doing what everyone would like to do, which is just to sell the stars. So if you were to get the data on this, you could look at the rate of sale and the profitability, which means you can work out your rate of profit on each of your SKUs, and that's a great number to have at your disposal when you're trying to make tough decisions about what to keep, what to cut, where to allocate funds to, and what to prioritize.
Mm-hmm. And how often do you think the average retailer or wholesaler should be looking at SKUs and optimizing their SKUs? Like, how often do you think they should be doing that?
Again, it varies business to business, but I would say there are, unless you're already at a time where you're hitting diminishing returns, that is, everything looks perfect and pretty much the way it did last time because you're so perfectly serving the market and perhaps you're not growing and things are just kind of turning the handle. It should be a persistent activity. So yes, you can do it annually. Yes, you can do it quarterly or monthly. And those are good times to take a long view retrospective, so to put all the information together and sift through it and find a general picture. There are always specific things you can be doing in the moment. So day to day, it is good to know what's going in and out of stock. It's good to be able to run a flash sale to clear out some things that are been hanging around for too long. Equally, it's good to note when products are being drawn out of stock because it can tell you something about the latent desires of the market. And if you can better service those needs by holding more stock, by selling in bulk, by any one of a number of approaches, that is the day-to-day activity of selling, is working out how to better match what you're offering to what people want to buy. And I think SKUs and stock holding is a really important part of that.
And from your experience, James, what kinds of businesses are the most successful when it comes to stock and SKUs?
So when we look at potential clients, when someone comes and says they'd like to use our warehousing service, we evaluate them in large part on one ratio, which is the number of orders they sell in a month against the number of SKUs they hold at any one time. And we will rarely do business with a company that doesn't sell more orders in a month than they hold SKUs, because below that point, we rarely see a business succeed. Now, obviously, there are some variations around that for reasons I've discussed to do with flexibility in fashion and shoe sizes and color differences and chances like that. But even then, the companies who do very well find some way of rationalizing that, bringing up the ratio of orders to SKUs, and that makes for a much less distracted retail operation. So that's what we see. And those who've done very well, particularly those who manufacture their own products because they know there's a real cost involved in making every different flavor or color, they tend to have a very narrow set of SKUs that they focus on selling, and those clients are very enjoyable to work with because they've got focused growth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And what tools do retailers have available to manage inventory and SKUs without the need to resort to big spreadsheets?
The big spreadsheets, indeed. So the big spreadsheet is an unenviable task. It's something that you probably have to do, but you should do it as rarely as you can. Using systems like Brightpearl and like Controlport, which is where our clients log on and look in the warehouse, you can get various different levels of detail of how SKUs are looking. So a couple of examples. We have, within our system, we show stock on a graph. Can we have a quick look at that graph? Grania, I think it's one of the final slides.
Oh,
that's the one.
Sorry.
So when if a client were to log on and look at one of their products, that's the one, the static stock chart. We display the stock going back in time. So that graph in the middle of the page that looks like some green hills is actually a description of various different batches of the same product over a 3-month period. And you can see that the amount of stock we actually hold is actually staying fairly static. It starts at the maximum about 250 down to about 200. But there's a lot of churn in there. Different batches are being brought in, then selling out, then new batches are brought in and being sold out on an almost weekly basis. What you can see from looking at that, even as a snapshot in the moment, is there's at least 100, maybe 150 items of this stock which are sitting on a shelf and being charged for every day that are not actually required, in that you could lose them and you wouldn't notice, even without changing the reordering pattern. And that represents an opportunity cost. And while it's nice to have a buffer, it's always worth tweaking, particularly on products where there's where they're bulky, so they take up more space and therefore cost more in storage, or just where there's a lot of activity. trying to work out what's the minimum buffer you can hold without ever disappointing an order. I think in this example, it's pretty clear that you could shave off almost half the cost of stock for this item by simply allowing 100 or so of the units to run down before reordering. So that type of in-the-moment tool is helpful. If you're looking at a more general way, accounting packages that have good information fed to them can give you some good retrospectives. So looking at rate of sales, and again, looking at rate of margin, rate of profit that comes from each SKU in turn, and packages like Brightpearl will enable you to do that. The nice thing about having the two systems together, so that is a warehousing system that feeds directly into an ERP such as Brightpearl, is if you get the data right, if the information is live and accurate, you're in a much better situation to make decisions which are useful rather than waiting to the end of the month to find out what you did right or wrong. It can be done on a day-by-day basis.
Yeah, definitely. So that's something where sort of Brightpearl and James work really, really well together. Actually being able to report on profitability by SKU, customer behaviour, purchase behaviour, like all that sort of stuff all in one place makes it much easier. I think being cloud-based as well and having real-time data is very, very important. I think that's becoming much more apparent with making business decisions.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree. And particularly for the industry we're in, we came here to do this, to make things visible from the real world into the cloud. We intend to be a source of very accurate data in real time. And what's nice about having that is not only you can see things, know an accurate number of stock, that's great, but you wouldn't want to spend your time doing that. But when you connect it up with additional external systems, or where you use the detailed in-the-moment reports, such as the ones that we provide, you can actually make useful decisions quickly, rather than, as I say, at the end of the month or when the accounts come through. The data is available right there in front of you when you want to do it, rather than having to wait to look at it in bulk.
Yeah. And so the other thing with Brightpearl is you can generate purchase orders at a single click as well. So you can see your purchase history, prices and margins for all your suppliers at an instant. So managing that supply chain is much, much easier as well. So you can make better buying decisions again at lower costs, increase your profits. I think you can just be a lot more proactive rather than reactive as a retailer.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Cool. Let's just go back to. So, just to summarise, I guess what we've talked about. The whole webinar was called 3 Ways to Control Your Inventory and Warehousing to Optimise Your Retail Operations. So I think working out your opportunity cost of stock is a big part of that. Rationalising your SKUs for maximum profit, and there's really good tools out there, cloud-based tools which give you live, accurate data to actually be proactive rather than reactive and go out and actually work out what SKUs are working well for you, what aren't. Just being a lot more adaptable to the market, what your customers are doing, their behaviour and stuff like that. So I think that's 3 ways that we are talking about today. James, have you got anything else that you wanted to add?
I don't think so. Do we have questions? Are there? I feel like we've been talking about what we want to talk about, and perhaps someone could guide us.
So, just before we jump into questions, if you do want to drop us an email afterwards, just email hello@brightpearl.com, and that will come through to me. And I will send a recording to everyone of the webinar, so you can just listen back to what James discussed in more detail.